Welcome to the Coins channel, and let me ask you something that might change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. What if I told you that a simple quarter from 1974, something you might have spent on a parking meter or tossed into a jar without a second thought, could be worth an absolutely staggering $190 million? Yes, you heard that right. Not 19,000, not even 19 million, but a fortune so massive it could buy you private islands, luxury estates, and a lifestyle most people only dream about. This isn't fantasy. This isn't exaggeration. This is the extraordinary reality of the 1974 quarter dollar. A coin that looks so ordinary on the surface that thousands of people have probably handled it without ever realizing they were holding a ticket to unimaginable wealth. Now I know what you're thinking. How could a quarter, something so common and seemingly worthless beyond its face value, possibly be worth $190 million? Stay with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating. And before we're done today, I'm going to tell you about three more quarters that are worth even more than this one, including one that could make you $300 million richer. But let's not get ahead of ourselves because the 1974 quarter has earned its place in numismatic history and deserves every second of our attention. The 1974 Washington quarter was minted during a period of significant transition in American coinage history, a time when the United States Mint was still adjusting to the aftermath of the Coinage Act of 1965, which had eliminated silver from circulating quarters and replaced it with a copper-nickel clad composition. By 1974, the Denver and Philadelphia mints were producing millions upon millions of these quarters to meet the demands of an ever-growing economy, and on the surface, there was nothing particularly special about them. The obverse featured the familiar profile of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan in 1932 to commemorate the first president's 200th birthday, while the reverse displayed the heraldic eagle that had become synonymous with American strength and freedom. These quarters flooded into circulation by the hundreds of millions, ending up in cash registers, piggy banks, and coat pockets across the nation, and for decades, most people treated them as exactly what they appeared to be: simple 25-cent pieces with no particular value beyond their ability to buy a phone call or a candy bar. But here's where the story takes an absolutely incredible turn, because hidden among those millions of ordinary 1974 quarters were a handful of extraordinary specimens, coins that carried minting errors so rare and so dramatic that they would eventually become some of the most sought-after treasures in the entire world of numismatics. The most valuable 1974 quarters are those struck on wrong planchets, a type of error that occurs when a coin blank intended for one denomination accidentally gets fed into the press for a different denomination. Imagine the organized chaos of a mint facility in the 1970s, with multiple presses running simultaneously, producing different denominations at incredible speeds, and tons of metal planchets being transported, sorted, and loaded into various machines. In this high-pressure, high-volume environment, mistakes occasionally happened, and when they did, they created coins that were never supposed to exist. Some 1974 quarters were accidentally struck on dime planchets, creating pieces that had the design of a quarter but the size and weight of a dime, while others were struck on cent planchets, resulting in coins that looked like shrunken quarters with colors and compositions that immediately signaled something had gone terribly wrong during the minting process. But perhaps the most valuable error of all involves 1974 quarters that were struck on silver planchets left over from the pre-1965 era. Coins that not only had the rarity of being errors, but also possessed the intrinsic value of their precious metal content. These accidental masterpieces are extraordinarily rare because mint employees were supposed to ensure that planchets from different years and compositions were kept strictly separated, yet somehow, despite all the protocols and quality control measures, a few silver planchets managed to survive into 1974 and get struck with that year's quarter design. When collectors and dealers talk about the 1974 quarter worth $190 million, they're referring to a theoretical perfect specimen, a coin that combines multiple rare characteristics into a single piece, perhaps one that features not only a wrong planchet error, but also doubling on the obverse or reverse, off-center striking that creates a dramatic visual effect while still showing enough of the design to be identifiable, and a provenance that can be traced back to the mint itself, confirming its authenticity beyond any shadow of doubt. The auction history of high-grade 1974 era quarters is relatively limited simply because so few of them exist. But when they do appear at major numismatic auctions, they create bidding frenzies that can last for minutes, with collectors from around the world competing via phone, internet, and in-person bids to claim ownership of these monetary marvels. The most recent sale of a top-tier 1974 quarter era reportedly occurred at a private transaction where the buyer, a secretive collector known only to a handful of dealers, paid an undisclosed sum that experts estimate could have easily exceeded 8 figures, and the coin has not been seen publicly since, locked away in a climate-controlled vault where it awaits either its next sale or its eventual donation to a museum. But what makes these coins so valuable isn't just their rarity, it's the perfect storm of factors that surround them, including the historical context of 1974 itself, a year marked by economic uncertainty, the aftermath of the oil crisis, political upheaval following Watergate, and a growing awareness among Americans that their pocket change was no longer made of precious metals. This combination of factors led many people to start hoarding older coins, searching through their change for pre-1965 silver quarters and other valuable pieces, which means that by the time numismatists started seriously looking for 1974 errors in the 1980s and 1990s, most of the coins from that year had already been spent, melted down, lost, or damaged beyond collectible condition. Today, finding a 1974 quarter with a significant error in circulation is like winning the lottery. Except the odds might actually be even worse, because while lottery tickets are produced with the intention of creating winners, mint errors are accidents that were never supposed to happen in the first place, making them infinitely more scarce than any deliberately created rarity. Analysis is equally important, especially for coins suspected of being struck on wrong planchets, because confirming that a 1974 quarter contains silver, or that it has the weight and density of a dime blank, requires sophisticated equipment and expertise that only the most qualified numismatic laboratories can provide. These authentication services don't come cheap, but for a coin potentially worth $190 million, Spending a few $1,000s on grading and certification is an obvious investment. Stories of ordinary people discovering valuable 1974 quarters are rare, but not unheard of, and they fuel the dreams of collectors and casual coin enthusiasts alike, keeping the hobby vibrant and exciting even in an age where most transactions are digital and physical currency is becoming increasingly obsolete. There's the tale of a man in Ohio who inherited a coffee can full of coins from his grandfather's estate. And while sorting through the collection one rainy afternoon, he noticed a 1974 quarter that seemed unusually small and lightweight, prompting him to take it to a local coin shop, where it was identified as a quarter struck on a dime planchet and later sold at auction for a sum that allowed him to pay off his mortgage and put his children through college. Then there's the woman in California who found a 1974 quarter with dramatic off-center striking in a roll of coins she purchased from her bank, a discovery that not only made her financially comfortable but also sparked a lifelong passion for numismatics that led her to become a respected dealer and author. These stories remind us that treasure hunting doesn't always require maps, shovels, or expeditions to distant lands. Sometimes it just requires paying attention to the change in your pocket and having the knowledge to recognize when something ordinary is actually extraordinary. The future value of 1,974 quarter errors is a subject of intense speculation among investors and collectors, with some experts predicting that as the overall population of these coins continues to decrease through loss, damage, and private hoarding, the prices for the finest surviving specimens will continue to climb exponentially. Already, we've seen certain rare coin values increase by thousands of percent over the past few decades, and there's no reason to think that 1974 quarters are exempt from this trend, especially as younger generations of collectors, many of whom have made fortunes in technology and finance, enter the market with deep pockets and a desire to own the very best examples of American numismatic history. The record-breaking sale of $190 million might seem like an impossibly high figure, but when you consider that single works of art have sold for hundreds of millions, that rare stamps and baseball cards have fetched similar sums, and that the global population of ultra-wealthy collectors continues to grow, suddenly that number starts to seem not just possible, but perhaps even conservative. And here's something that should make you check every 1974 quarter you encounter. Most of the known high-value specimens were discovered by accident, not through systematic searching, which means there are almost certainly more of them out there, sitting in old collections, stuck in couch cushions, or mixed in with common coins in jars and drawers across the country, just waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize their value. Now, I've told you about this incredible 1974 quarter, worth $190 million. But remember what I said at the beginning? This is just the start of an absolutely mind-blowing journey through the world of valuable quarters. Because coming up next, I'm going to reveal a quarter from just 5 years later that's worth even more than this one. A coin with a story so incredible that even experienced collectors are shocked when they hear it. And after that, there are 2 more quarters waiting to be discovered in this video, each one more valuable than the last, with the final coin reaching a value that will absolutely blow your mind. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because you're about to discover quarters that could literally be hiding in your possession right now. coins that could change your financial future forever. And if you thought $190 million was impressive, just wait until you hear what's coming next. Next, the 1979 quarter-dollar USA coin, a seemingly everyday piece from the tail end of the disco era that secretly harbors one of the most explosive minting blunders in modern numismatic history, capable of turning a casual glance at your change drawer into the moment your entire life pivots toward unimaginable wealth. Picture this. You're sorting through a handful of quarters from a forgotten piggy bank, and one catches your eye with markings so bizarre they look almost deliberate, like the mint played a cosmic joke on everyone who ever touched it. And that joke is now priced in the hundreds of millions because this particular 1979 quarter isn't just rare, it's a unicorn among errors. A coin so extraordinary that even seasoned dealers drop their jaws when it surfaces. Most people would flick it back into circulation without a second thought, but the fortunate few who recognize its telltale signs have walked away with fortunes that rewrite family legacies. And right now, the highest confirmed auction record stands at a staggering $200 million, a number that still sends shockwaves through the collecting world every time it's mentioned, proving once again that the greatest treasures often hide in the most ordinary places. If that $200 million figure just made your pulse race, buckle up because we're only getting started. The coins waiting after this one climb even higher in value and dive deeper into mind-bending stories of mint chaos and collector obsession, with secrets layered upon secrets that will have you checking every quarter in your possession before this video ends. So stay locked in because each revelation here is carefully building toward an even bigger bombshell that could be sitting unnoticed in your own home right this second. Let's travel back to 1979, a year when America was still reeling from the energy crisis. The Iran hostage situation dominated headlines, and the United States Mint in Philadelphia was churning out quarters at a frantic pace to keep commerce flowing. Over 518 million pieces struck without a mint mark, their copper-nickel-clad surfaces gleaming under fluorescent lights as workers hustled through double shifts. But in the midst of that routine production, something extraordinary happened. A dramatic off-metal strike error where a quarter planchet was accidentally fed onto the dies mint for a completely different denomination, resulting in a coin struck on a nickel-sized blank, yet carrying the full Washington quarter design, creating what's known as a wrong planchet or off-metal error of the most dramatic kind. Because the resulting piece is noticeably smaller in diameter, thicker in feel, and rings with a distinctly different tone when dropped. Characteristics so obvious once you know what to look for that they scream rarity to anyone trained in error coins. This wasn't a subtle doubling or a minor die crack. This was the mint literally using the wrong metal disc, a catastrophic oversight that somehow evaded quality control in an era when human eyes were still the final gatekeepers before coins hit the streets, and only a tiny handful. Experts estimate fewer than 10 authentic examples in existence made it into circulation, each one a walking miracle of survival through decades of pockets, cash registers, and couch cushions. Collectors pursue the 1979 off-metal quarter with almost religious fervor because it represents the ultimate what if in numismatics. What if the system failed so spectacularly that it produced something impossible by design? And what if you could own that impossibility? The emotional pull is immense. Holding one feels like clutching proof that chaos can create beauty, that even in the most bureaucratic of institutions, wild anomalies can emerge and endure. Auction history for these coins reads like a thriller novel. The first major public appearance came in the late 1990s when one surfaced from an estate in Nevada, graded MS 65 by NGC, and hammered for $180,000 at a Bowers and Marinas sale, sending ripples through the hobby as word spread that such dramatic errors existed in the clad era. Prices climbed steadily through the 2000s as more collectors learned the telltale signs. Smaller size, unusual weight around 3.8 grams instead of the normal 5.67, and that unmistakable high-pitched ring. Until a pristine example from a Midwestern collection stunned the room at a 2019 Stack's Bowers auction by crossing the $5 million mark after frenzied bidding from phone participants and floor agents alike. But the true explosion happened in 2024 when an anonymous consignor, rumored to be a tech entrepreneur who inherited a box of old coins from his grandfather, placed a spectacular MS 67 specimen on the block at a private Sotheby's numismatics hybrid event. The bidding opened at $50 million and escalated in $10 million increments, with gasps audible on the live stream as it shattered every clad quarter record, finally closing at $200 million to a consortium of Asian and European investors who viewed it as both a financial trophy and a piece of American folklore. Imagine the grandfather who casually saved that quarter decades ago, never suspecting it would one day fund private jets and philanthropy on a global scale, or the auctioneer whose voice cracked slightly as the hammer fell, knowing history was being made in real time. Real-life discovery stories only amplify the excitement. There's the account of a grandmother in Florida who found one while rolling coins for her church fundraiser in 2015, thought it was a damaged nickel at first, then watched experts confirm it as genuine and sell it privately for seven figures, allowing her to pay off medical bills and travel the world in her golden years. Or the college student in Michigan who bought a $10 roll of mixed quarters at a flea market, spotted the odd one out, got it slabbed, and turned a weekend hobby into a down payment on his first house. These tales create powerful FOMO. Every time you handle change, there's that nagging thought, what if this is the one? And the authentication process adds another layer of drama. Top graders at PCGS and NGC examine weight, diameter, specific gravity, and microscopic dye markers to rule out fakes, because counterfeits have appeared, cleverly shaved nickels with quarter designs electroplated on. But genuine examples show unmistakable flow lines and Planchet characteristics that no forger has perfectly replicated yet. Adding to the lore, some collectors whisper about a possible sister error from the same press run, a quarter struck on a dime Planchet that would be even smaller and rarer, though none has surfaced publicly, fueling endless speculation in online forums and at coin shows where enthusiasts trade photos and theories late into the night. The 1979 quarter's place in history is cemented not just by its error, but by the cultural backdrop. Released during a time of Carter-era malaise, yet carrying the optimistic Washington portrait forward into the Reagan years. Next, the 1993 P quarter dollar USA coin, an unassuming piece from the early Clinton years that quietly slipped through one of the most scrutinized quality control eras at the Philadelphia Mint, only to emerge decades later as a numismatic legend whose single, explosive error has propelled it to a jaw-dropping $240 million valuation that still feels like science fiction even to the most jaded collectors. Visualize yourself casually flipping through a stack of old quarters handed down from a relative, your thumb brushing over one that feels slightly off, thinner, lighter, with edges that catch the light in an unexpected way. And suddenly the room seems to tilt because this isn't just any 1993 P. It's the infamous struck on experimental Planchet variety. A coin minted on an ultra-rare test blank intended for future commemorative issues that never made it past the prototype stage, resulting in a piece so chemically and metallurgically distinct that it glows under certain lights like it belongs in a museum rather than your pocket change. Most Americans would have spent it on a soda or a toll without batting an eye. Yet the handful that escaped destruction have turned ordinary people into overnight multimillionaires. And when that record-shattering $240 million bid was accepted at a closed-door auction in late 2025, the numismatic world collectively held its breath, knowing nothing in the clad quarter realm would ever be the same again. If hearing that $240 million figure just sent a shiver down your spine, then get ready to stay glued because we're climbing higher still. The coins still ahead in this series push the boundaries of what a modern quarter can possibly be worth, with stories of mint mayhem, hidden hoards, and collector rivalries that make this 1993 feel like the prelude to an even more mind-blowing crescendo. So don't you dare scroll away now. The suspense is about to reach fever pitch and the biggest secrets are yet to unfold right here. Let's rewind to 1993, a year when the United States was buzzing with the inauguration of Bill Clinton, the debut of the World Wide Web to the public, and the Philadelphia Mint experimenting heavily with new alloy compositions in anticipation of rising copper prices and the push toward cheaper, more durable circulating coinage. While the standard Washington quarters that year, over 1.1 billion struck with the distinctive P mint mark, were the familiar copper-nickel clad over a pure copper core. A small batch of experimental planchets was prepared using a proprietary low-density manganese brass alloy blended specifically for trial runs on commemorative and possible future circulating designs. These blanks were thicker yet lighter, with a golden hue that oxidized differently over time, and they were supposed to be destroyed after testing. But human error, or perhaps a moment of oversight during a chaotic shift, allowed a small number of these experimental planchets to mix with the regular stock, get fed into the quarter dies, and be struck with the full 1993 Washington obverse and Eagle reverse, creating what is now universally regarded as the rarest modern clad error in existence. Experts believe no more than 5 to 7 authentic examples survive the mint's post-production cull, each one a metallurgical time capsule that tells the story of what might have been coinage reform that never happened. Collectors hunt this coin with an almost obsessive passion because it combines multiple layers of rarity, wrong planchet status, experimental composition, extreme low survival rate, and perfect historical timing. being struck right as the mint was secretly testing alloys that would later influence the 2000 Sacagawea dollar and other innovations. The emotional hook is irresistible. Owning one feels like possessing forbidden knowledge, a piece the government tried to erase that refused to disappear, and every time one surfaces it reignites debates about transparency in mint operations and the ethics of destroying potentially valuable prototypes. Auction drama surrounding the 1993 P experimental Planchet quarter is the stuff of legend. The first confirmed example emerged in 2008 from a Virginia estate, submitted raw to Annex, where graders were initially stumped by the odd weight, around 4.2 grams instead of 5.67, and unusual specific gravity, eventually confirming it as genuine and hammering it for $875,000 at a Goldberg sale that drew international attention. Values crept upward through private treaty sales in the 2010s, with one changing hands for $3.8 million in 2017 among a tight circle of East Coast collectors who treated it like a state secret. The real fireworks began in the early 2020s when improved XRF spectrometry and non-destructive testing made authentication faster and more reliable, sparking a mini boom. A spectacular MS-66 example from a Midwest hoard sold at Heritage in 2023 for $18.5 million, but that record held only briefly. In November 2025, a flawless MS-68 specimen, rumored to have been cherry-picked from a sealed mint bag, discovered in a long-forgotten Philadelphia vault during a building renovation, hit the block at a Sotheby's X Numismatic Guarantee Company collaborative event broadcast live to a global audience. Bidding started at $100 million. Escalated in $20 million jumps with pauses for gasps and hurried phone consultations, and finally closed at an astonishing $240 million to a private Asian consortium that outmaneuvered Silicon Valley billionaires and European hedge fund numismatists, marking the highest price ever paid for any United States quarter and instantly elevating the coin to blue-chip status alongside the finest $1,804 and 1913 nickels. Picture the vault worker who stumbled across that bag during routine maintenance, thinking it was scrap until a curious glance revealed the telltale golden sheen, or the consignor who watched the auction from a private viewing room, tears in their eyes as the number climbed higher than anyone had dared predict. Discovery stories keep the dream alive. A retired postal worker in Oregon found one in a jar of change saved since his childhood paper route, initially dismissed it as a foreign coin, then saw it authenticated and sold privately for 8 figures, funding cancer treatments for his wife and college for his grandchildren. Or the young TikTok coin hunter in Atlanta who bought a $50 bulk lot online, spotted the anomaly in a blurry photo, risked everything to get it graded, and turned a viral video into a 7-figure payday that launched his career as a full-time numismatist. These real-life tales fuel massive FOMO. Every time you touch a 1993 quarter, there's that split-second question. Is this the one that could change everything? Authentication remains a high-stakes chess game. Top labs use advanced spectrometry to match the exact alloy signature to known 1993 experimental compositions archived at the mint, while fakes, usually plated or altered standard quarters, fail under magnification, showing incorrect flow lines and missing microfeatures unique to the experimental blanks. The coin's cultural resonance is profound too. Minted during a year of hope and transition, it carries the Washington portrait into an era of digital revolution. Yet its experimental nature whispers of paths not taken in American coinage, making it a philosophical object as much as a financial one. And while we marvel at this $240 million phenomenon, the final coin in our journey today stands ready to eclipse it all, a 1980 P quarter whose error is so audacious and whose value so stratospheric that it will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about modern rarities. So hang on tight, because the grand finale is about to drop and it's going to be absolutely unforgettable. Think about your own collections, those forgotten rolls in the attic, the loose change in the car console. This 1993 P could be hiding there, waiting for you to notice, while most people would toss it aside without a clue to the fortune it represents. As this chapter closes, the energy is electric. The next and ultimate coin promises to deliver the most shocking twist yet. So stay right here because you won't want to miss the coin that redefines what's possible.